Let's take a look at some information and charts on Wi-Fi or Yearn Finance for Brave New Coin. So I talk about Yearn not because I like the token, but because I absolutely love, adore, and admire the protocol, how it works, what it does for me, what it does for us at Enzyme, or for our products at Enzyme anyway. But essentially Yearn does three things. It is a vault switcher, yield optimizer, shifting funds between various places, getting you the best yields on things. It also has a governance component where the token itself is involved. But at the end of the day, the protocol doesn't need the token to function. It's just sort of an added use case. And just to give you some idea, if you're not aware already as to how even USDC rates fluctuate between protocols over time, DAI rates, all these rates are kind of all over the place on any given day, depending on supply and demand for USDC, USDT, ETH, BTC, right? It's all over the place depending on the platform itself. And to optimize that with Yearn and to allow you to just set it and forget it, to just put it in something you don't have to massage and move around constantly. You don't have to eat the gas fees solely. That's all baked in. So the functionality is exactly what somebody who perhaps doesn't have enough capital to move around themselves because of ETH fees can just set it and forget it in Yearn. They also have a version 3 coming that looks like it's still in beta, but they're continuously working, at least seemingly, to upgrade and update things. This is the current version, and you can connect your wallet just like you can with any other dApp on ETH or most chains at this point. And it lists it all here. It's pretty simple. It tells you what you can invest in or throw money at, basically. Gives you the APYs, gives you the fee breakdowns, and you can just easily, 3 clicks probably, boom, you're done. Super simple types of stuff, and you're off to the races. These are the proposals for their governance side of things. You can see they have fairly active votes on things. Looks like the last vote didn't get a ton of votes overall. And, the governance people, I'm sure, would love to, once they discover this, if they haven't already, to analyze this and see, like, yeah, most of these votes are 100% yes. So it's like, is that truly governance? Or is it just like thinly veiled? Here's a use case that people are just going to agree with everything. How it usually works is people agree with everything you say until there's a debate about something. And then it's huge and it causes a huge rift. And then there's a fork and then there's issues. Stuff like this, the governance tries to prevent that. And we've seen that with BTC over the years, with ETH. We've seen it time and time again. On-chain governance tries to mitigate against that. You can see the last vote was in February. They haven't had any votes since then that I'm aware of. Here's the TVL picture for Yearn. You can see V1, V2, and a few other products here. It was at an all-time high a couple days ago, down since then as the underlying is falling, but it's still sitting at 5.75 billion. And from a fundamental product side of things, I'd want to see something like this, contract interactions and or users, some metric that we can see who's using it and how many people are using it. Looks like not that many people use it on any given day. That's certainly been declining since October. But I think the people that do use it rely on it heavily. I think it's a great use case and needed service, especially with ETH fees, what they are. When we look at the token itself, it's much less of a rosy picture for on-chain activity. This is transactions per day for the token, which is basically sitting at all-time lows, and you don't really have a reason to move most DeFi tokens around frequently. This isn't a currency per se. It just kind of sits somewhere and does its thing. So it's not a surprise that this is down, but you're going to want to see this type of thing increasing if you are bullish, because it represents a ramp up in speculative activity, if nothing else. And average transaction values at all-time highs, as ETH fees are at basically all-time highs. And you're just seeing very few microtransactions, tiny fractional transactions. Probably all that's left is like exchange custodians at this point. If we look at NVT versus active addresses in the fill there, active addresses continue to sit or decline to all-time lows. No surprise there. NVT skyrocketing mid-year here and continues to hang up here, meaning that on-chain activity has not increased relative to market cap, even though market cap is just sat flat. So if market cap is flat and NVT is rising, that tells you that on-chain activity is declining, which is everything else I'm saying here. It's no surprise that NVT sits where it sits. Something else you can watch, although for DeFi it's not really a great signal, is MVRV. which is a measure of market cap versus on-chain activity in a little different way than NVT. For most coins, this tops out at a 2x multiple, and you can very, very clearly see, usually, the highs in MVRV align with the highs in price. For DeFi, that hasn't really been the case. MVRV just is kind of static, agnostic of price. Not much going on there. Currently, MVRV is below 1, meaning there is more on-chain activity than market cap, as far as the way this is measured here, on a market cap versus realized market cap basis. So this still just needs more data. I don't think it's super helpful just yet. Looking at Google Trends worldwide past 12 months for Wi-Fi. Now, I'm going to assume that this is Wi-Fi, the protocol, the token. And if you zoom way out on Google Trends, go back 5 years, you can see how there was this baseline. And then all of a sudden, corresponding with the crypto Wi-Fi, we saw peaks in Google Trends. So I'm pretty confident that this is actually picking up Wi-Fi protocol and token here. And you can also look here and look up Yearn.science or Yearn.finance, whatever it is, and see what that is as well. But this is also showing the same thing that on-chain activity is showing, in that it's just flat, declining, no real activity in search history, articles, that sort of thing on Google over the past few months, which certainly isn't bullish. And if we look at where the price has been since inception, it had this crazy spike everybody was talking about. You can't get into the Citadel without owning Wi-Fi. And ever since then, it's largely done nothing. It's largely just sat here at this 32 to 35K price point because there aren't that many circulating tokens. MAs aren't going to help you here because it's flat sideways. Until we're out of this range, the analysis is if it goes lower, if it breaks this range, it's going lower. If it breaks above, it's going higher. I mean, that's pretty much as far as you can say. It's leaning bearish because it's below the 200-day moving average. But after May, really after June into August, this thing has done a whole lot of nothing. And that's kind of broader DeFi, just hasn't really done much. The other layer 2 protocols, AVAX, Solana, have done much better than anything DeFi related. So that's just really neutral. Against the cloud, it's below the cloud. It's really been below the cloud since June. It had a brief spike here, but ultimately that's gotten smacked down. The cloud isn't great to use when we're in a non-trending market. It's very clearly just flat, random walk, sideways. I don't see a chart pattern here. I don't see necessarily anything. I guess you could argue some sort of M or Adam and Eve, VU maybe, which is a bearish chart pattern, but I just think it needs price action to know what it wants to be when it grows up, because right now it's just sideways flatlining, not too much going on. Wi-Fi BTC, though, you can definitively see and say that this thing has been bearish since inception. Had a brief period in May, but again, it had that Adam and Eve fractal, and ever since then, it's been good night. Just absolutely pummeled below the 50 MA, below all this VPVR, below the 200, obviously, even below the Tenkin, which is a faster 50 type of moving average. It has looked better lately as it's breaking out of this RSI downtrend. With a bull div, you're getting lower lows in price, higher lows in RSI. It's at multi-month lows. I don't hate a buy here. I would never touch this. I'm not going to be your hero. I'm not going to catch knives. I'm not going to do any of the things you'd need to do to sit in this. I don't think fundamentally it's worth anything at the end of the day. So I've got that against me as far as trading this. But let's say I was bullish. What would I want to see? You'd want to see price above the cloud, bullish 50-200 cross, at the very least price back above the 200-day moving average, and ultimately you'd want to see price back above this volume range, which is parity basically with BTC. If it exceeds parity with BTC, then we can get bullish again. Until then, I don't think this thing goes anywhere. It may mean revert to 0.75, where the 200-day moving average is, but this is not a bullish picture by any means. ETH as well. This is Kraken chart on Wi-Fi ETH. It has been down only since this started trading. It's been below the 50, below the Kijun, below the cloud, below the 200. It is in recent months, though, forming a multi-month bullish divergence as price goes lower with less and less bearish momentum. So again, do I think fundamentally Wi-Fi is going to outperform ETH? I do not. Can this thing mean revert to the 200 for the first time ever? I believe that, yeah. I don't think this thing's going to have a multi-year bull market or anything like that against ETH. But I also don't hate partial rotations into stuff like this, just based on the technicals alone. You don't get opportunities like this frequently. I wouldn't feel good about trading this but the setup is that at the very least there. You can't deny that there's a multi-month bull div here, and I've traded Zcash with setups like this, and made money, surprisingly. So it's not a terrible trade, but it is difficult to want to sit in this if you're wrong. Like, what do? Do you just let go at all-time lows? Because that's probably what I'd do. Is if I was buying either of these, you just let go in any lower low, and you can see over the past few months, that's all it's done is make lower lows. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techme Capital on Enzyme Finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC, or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM performance, allocation. You can see the vaults I'm in here on Yearn, Comp, and Aave. So I love Yearn. I love the vaults. I love what they allow me to do for this portfolio. Gives me crazy yield opportunities for sure. And you can also see the trades in the trades tab down below. That's all I have for this one. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.